unto salvation for the world, unto all who will believe. Oh, how then shall they hear without a preacher, that our gracious Lord is ready to forgive? To us it's been committed as His stewards, that light to shine every moment that we live. To every creature I'll preach the gospel, in season, out of season I would faithful be. This was our Savior's consuming passion in every hour. It's still God's power unto salvation for the world, unto all who will believe. Oh, that all men would believe.
Amen.
So 2:30, I got a call from Pastor today, and I should say I missed the call from Pastor. One moment. So I called him back, and he goes to me, "My wife said that you probably shouldn't have called me back." And I says, "Well, I can hang up and rethink it." And he says, "It's too late now." He goes, "Can you preach?" I'm like, man, I don't, I like last minute, couple days prior too, but we're kind of pushing it at this point, aren't we? And he laughed. He says, plans fell through or whatever. But I was trying to find what to preach. I said, well, you call, I'll do everything I can, tonight. But I says, I better get to studying. So I took a nap and try to calm the nerves a little bit, and that didn't work out so well. So I got up and sat down and started to kind of go over some things, and God brought to mind a message that, we got all sorts of stuff. We got gift cards up here, Tim Hortons gift cards, no name on this. If there's no names, is it finder keeper? This is a loaded card, Pastor. There's a note. Oh. Never mind. I don't get it. You're supposed to write that stuff on the card. There's a little spot. You put it there. You don't rip off pieces of paper and put it on it. That's not fair. It's cheating. Because what if that paper was to slip off? Then I'd be stealing stuff. That wouldn't be right. But my mind went back to actually a message I preached. I was going to write one, and I sat there flipping through my Bible and trying to figure out where God was kind of leading, and I've never been one to hurry God. I've always things happen in His time, and I think that He actually showed me that through the career option He showed me or put me in, And that has showed me that big things take time. And your life is a long thing for us. It's a long thing. And a lot of times we expect a microwave, you put it in for 30 seconds, and, it comes up. But we all can agree there's nothing like throwing something in an oven and bringing it up to temperature the right way, right? It's the same thing with God. There ain't nothing like, microwave Christianity. Yeah, all right, I guess you can get it hot. The center of it's always cold. But when you bring it up, when you pull it out of the oven after after my wife takes something out of the crock pot, it's been in there for 12 hours, and the meat's just falling off. I mean, there ain't nothing like it, Vinny, I'm trying to relate with you. He's like, oh, lamb chops, But, I was kind of praying. Well, actually, not kind of, I was. Lord, I haven't ever asked to really hurry you in a long time, but can we hurry? Because I'm starting to actually getting really nervous about talking to, I've never been in this situation, so I was a little underprepared. And he brought up a message, and the title, I actually preached this a while ago, it's quite a while ago, but it's called Precious Memories. And, this church has been going through some hard times, for the last couple months. There's been some, for lack of better words, seeing this is last minute, some higher profile things that we all know of, right? And that we've all had an influence in and being there together through that for certain people. And then there's other things that are behind the scenes. There's things some things that I may know of that the church body does not know of. There's a lot of things that I don't know of and that our pastor knows of and his family, and some just his pastor. And there's some in this room in here that I know for a fact are going through a hard time. And this, when I started reading this, I'm like, this is it. This is what, and I was thankful that God answered my prayer. I was very thankful because I get to read this message. I don't have to stammer and to stutter and to try and find the words. God already preset it a while ago. So a lot of this message is just reading. You guys are going to end up doing some Bible flipping just to one spot. Actually, you can turn there now. It's Psalms 105 is where we're going to be. Psalms 105. Some of the verses in the scriptures I'm just gonna read. You don't have to flip to them. But at the end of the message, we'll read from that passage of scripture. I'll tell you the verses. I don't want you reading ahead. You guys cheat when I do that. So I know because I cheat when Pastor Lou does it. I read through. What's he gonna say? But it starts off like this. Precious memories. One of my first memories. I remember climbing the mountain as a child. Some of you in here know what that means. Where's Gabe Donath? Is he still in here, or did he leave when he found out I was preaching? Oh, you're here. You remember climbing the mountain? What was it? Preacher's belly. Preacher's belly was climbing the mountain. You'd hold your hands out like this. I'm thinking to myself, how little were we that we remembered that? But at the same time, Preacher had a very large belly, so I may have been 10. I don't remember. But I remember him holding us up, and we climbed the mountain. I remember shooting my first pistol with Preacher. Oh, by the way, this is going to be politically incorrect. Just so this is back when America was America. Okay? I remember shooting my first pistol with Preacher. His hands were so big around mine, I don't even think I was actually holding the pistol, but I remember shooting it. Gabe, here's one for you. I remember Gabe hiding in the bottom of the pulpit during service. I remember that one. I remember the kidnapping in the middle of service. Don't worry, we are much more secure now. All the men jumped up out of their seats, jumped in their cars, and helped the cops catch the bad guy. I remember that. That was real. That was crazy. That was crazy. But I've never seen, that was like, again, back when, America was great. That was back when men were men. I remember the night I got saved. What do you remember? The crazy things and situations that we go through, that's not just something, that's not something new in history. Look at Acts 16, 25, 26. I'll read it for you. And it says, and in the midnight, Paul and Silas prayed and sang praises unto God. And the prisoners heard them. And suddenly there was a great earthquake, so that the foundations of the prisons were shaken. And immediately all the doors were opened, and everyone's bands were loose. You know what that was? You know what that description, that verse in the Bible is a description of? That's somebody's memory. That is somebody's crazy time that they went through for Christ. That's what that is. I remember the first building project. Not this one, the one before. A stranger pulling up, walking up to Pastor Lou and handing him a check to help with the building project. We're out of money. And what I mean a stranger is, he was not a member of this church. He said that God wouldn't let him alone. And he just felt he had to donate some money. And it was a lot of money back then. It was a lot of money. I remember when Pete got buried alive. Well, Pastor Pete now. One of the forms gave way, and he got buried under a lot of dirt. He was lucky to make it out of there. I remember when Pastor wanted all the children to come color on the church. The color on the plywood floors before their carpet went down. You know, I actually remember where that is. If you walk in the pastor's house now through the garage doors, you walk right through, and there's that doorway to go down to the basement. It was right there to the left. I still remember that today. I don't remember who was with me, but I remember sitting there and coloring on the plywood floors before all the carpet went down. I remember the baptisms down behind the hill at the church. You didn't get baptized, high profile. It was a baptistry that we held up with 2x4s, and I think there was a ladder up to it, wasn't there? There was a ladder up to it. And you jumped in that thing. I don't know how old the water was. They usually scraped off all the algae before, but that's how we baptized you. You knew God was with you, because if you got sick, try to check your salvation. I remember riding with my dad on his motorcycle in the sidecar with my brother Jed. You know, my dad would drive the bike. Me and my brother, he'd shove us in that sidecar, right? Jed went to sleep in the nose of the sidecar, and my dad thought he bounced out. I remember how relieved he was when he found him. Not because he found him, but because he didn't have to tell my mom he lost Jed. And I kid you not, that was the words out of his mouth. Oh, thank goodness you're here. Do you know what I would have had to say to your mom? You know, still to this day, I remember a little bit of it, and I remember him looking down at a red light and asking me where Jed was, and I went, I don't remember Jed sliding by me into the note. I don't remember any of that. I just remember going, oh. Like, how did I miss that part where Jed slid down? Like, I don't know. I remember riding the bus every Sunday with my dad and brothers. I remember the bus starting on a cold winter day. Or should I say not starting? Boy, I don't know if you guys, we didn't have a church. We didn't have, when we were at the Pink Elephant, we parked the buses down on Center Road in their lot. And we had to go there, and we'd pick them up there every Sunday. I remember that blue bus. Pastor Donat used to drive that thing. That thing had more holes. Oh, man. We came from some crazy stuff. I remember Pastor taking us out to pass out tracts and invite people to church. It was called drive-by tracking. What do you remember? 1 Chronicles 16:12 says, remember his marvelous works that he had done, his wonders, and the judgments of his mouth. You guys getting the point of the message tonight? You guys starting to get it? It's about remembering. What do you remember? I remember special times with preacher, sitting and talking. And this is Pastor Lou Sr., obviously. Sitting and talking as we shot squirrels with a pellet gun off the deck of his parsonage. Remember, I told you it's politically incorrect tonight. I remember our first camp meeting. My mom put us in the back of a station wagon under the blankets, so it was so cold. I don't know if a lot of you guys were around back then, but man, it was like the Wild West here at Old Time. We've been sophisticated, and we're all different now. But man, that was crazy. I remember a preacher, and this is my favorite part, one of my favorite memories. All I know is, when he says charge, I'm going to load my squirt gun, swing across hell on a vine, spit in a demon's eye, and give the devil the finger. He actually preached that. Of course, I just did too, but that's a memory. It's a memory. I remember my mom was very upset with that preacher, as most of you mothers are now upset with me. I remember men like Jimmy Hood, Don Hardman, Jack Parchman. Man, I'll tell you what, Jack Parchman, he'd come down on that front, and he had that long finger. It was literally 2 feet long. And he'd go like this. The first 3 rows had the duct. That's how it was. Jimmy Hood would run up. He'd run up on the chairs. Remember, he'd jump up on them chairs. It was crazy. You guys need visual? I'll do it for you, but I'm afraid I'm going to get hurt. Them guys are old school. I got health insurance, but I don't know. He'd tell you, Jimmy Hood, I've been stabbed 3 times, shot 12 times, beat up with a bat. What are you going to do with me? I'll meet you outside, show you what a man's like. That was, man, the guys were preaching. Man. I remember Brother Don Hardman, you couldn't even understand what he was saying. He'd get going, and that was back before he came up to New York long enough to, adopt some of our New York accent. He'd be preaching, and you were like, amen? Or conviction. I'm not sure what I should be doing right now. Man, it was good times. I remember having a camp meeting and a tri-state at the same time. We blew a transformer, and all the power went out. Like for Hamburg. It's a big deal. Not sure if we ever got in trouble. We lit some candles, and I remember being, at that point I was a teenager, we were up in the main auditorium, and I don't know where we got candles, but I remember there were candles lit. I don't know if they were expecting to blow a transformer, but we lit some candles. Preachers didn't skip a beat. I believe that was Don Hardman who was preaching. Jimmy Hood. It was Jimmy Hood who was preaching. He goes, I'll preach in the dark. I don't care. And he just kept rolling. Man, I remember the souls being saved that night. What do you remember? And I looked, Nehemiah 4:14 says this, and I looked and rose up and said unto the nobles and to the rulers and to the rest of the people, be not afraid of them. Remember the Lord, which is great and terrible, and fight for your brethren, your sons and your daughters, your wives and your houses. I know Nehemiah, he was talking about the physical, but that's what we were doing back then in old time, but it was spiritual. That was before it was organized warfare, and it was just craziness. And we were just trying to do something to try and just win some souls. And it was just crazy. I loved it. And I'm not saying anything bad about where we are now. God has us where we are because we need to be where we are. But I'm saying, where is your memories? What is your memories? Can you take that verse that I just read and apply it to yourself? Are some of you in here today, are you fighting for your houses, for your wives, for your sons and your daughters? There's nothing wrong with that. That's Bible. That's what you're supposed to do. I remember when we bought the Hickox property and held our first camp meeting there. We moved the entire church down there. Literally everything but the pews. Load after load, truck after truck. There had to be 100 people that showed up for those setup days. I remember Don Harmon pointing at me from the pulpit at one of those camp meetings and asking me if I was ready to get right. To this day, I still don't know how he knew that. He literally singled me out of 400 people and asked me if I was ready yet. I was like, I didn't even talk to you. How do you know? I was ready. I remember Pastor Pete imitating Brother Fisher so well that Brother Fisher could barely preach afterwards. I don't remember what he has a tick, but he's like, what does he say? Look up here now or whatever, pay attention. What does he say?
Doing well. You're doing well.
Oh, you're doing well. Hey, you're doing well. You're doing, and he had these tics, and he'd say it, and then he'd think of Pastor Pete and imitating. I think that was the last time that we had those. I think Pastor Lou Sr. seen the problem with it, but it was fun, man. He imitated Pastor Jimmy Hood so well, he blacked out some of his teeth. And he's up there, and he's jumping on the pulpit, and he's screaming, and he's yelling, and he goes, I've been shot 3 times, stabbed 6 times, beaten the bell. What are you going to do? And he smiles, and he's missing all these teeth. Jimmy Hood almost fell off his chair. He laughed so hard. Oh man, I remember meeting the girl of my dreams at that camp meeting, knowing that I would marry her, and I did. I remember hitting a deer on my motorcycle. I remember hitting the pavement, and I remember listening to my bones break. I remember laying on the ground, bleeding, telling God that this isn't the way that I thought I was going to die. What do you remember? See, it's not just good memories. It's not just the good ones. Right. I can sit here, I can make you guys laugh all night long. I know, because I've done a lot of stupid things in my life. But if it was just the good memories, how would we know how good God is? It's a lot of fun to call you guys family. It is. It is. It's a lot of fun. I could probably sit here and hang out with you and listen to stories all night long. Ramon, I could definitely listen to your stories. You've done some crazy things. But that's entertainment. It's good times. That's the glory of God. That's a blessing that we're able to share those stories with each other. And we're able to go through those good times together. But we don't really know God until we go through some things. Amen. Psalms 27:8 says, some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we will remember the name of our God, Lord our God. They are brought down and fallen, but we are risen and stand upright. Amen. Ain't that the truth? I remember going to war in 2007, 2008, and having an army praying for me and my friends stateside as well. I remember a guy, listen to this, guys. I remember meeting a guy from Jimmy Hood's church in the middle of Iraq. What do you think of that? Some of you know that story, maybe some of you don't. But here I was. I got off a mission a little earlier. We went to the gym. Some of the, we call them fobbits. Them are people that don't go outside the wire. They get all the nice stuff. And they were playing floor hockey. And there was a guy there. And he wasn't. I never seen him there before. And not that I've been there a lot, but they were making fun of him, and they were trying to get him to swear. And I'm like, man, this guy must be a Christian. It's not too often people, especially in the Army, they have morals like that, And I waited till after, and he was walking back to his compound, his side of the base. I caught up with him. I said, hey, you a Christian? And he looked at me and goes, you going to make fun of me too? I says, no. So I'm a Christian too. I was just looking for some fellowship. You go to the military things, those military churches, and you got to remember, they combine them for everybody. So you got the Catholics, the Protestants, the Presbyterians, the Pentecostals, the Baptists, and they kind of blend it. You ain't getting fed. You ain't getting fed there. So I was just looking for some fellowship. He goes, well, yeah, I'm a Christian. And then next week, well, what are you? Because that's a broad term. He goes, I'm a Baptist. I said, oh, no kidding, so am I. He goes, really? I says, yeah. I said, where are you from? He goes, Ohio. I said, I know a pastor out. I said, I know a preacher out there, Jimmy Hood. He goes, what? He goes, that's my pastor. I go, what? Are you kidding me? I said, he goes, no. He goes, where are you from? I said, Buffalo, New York. He goes, hey, you know Lou Godano? I said, that's my pastor. He goes, I've been to your camp meeting. Middle of Iraq. I remember meeting my new interpreter, because we had to get rid of one, he was lying, and finding out he was a Christian. Guy actually started witnessing to me in our truck. Amen. I remember the miracles where I should have died, but I didn't. And there was quite a few. I remember calling my dad and saying, I just don't understand. We were walking into an ambush last night and we should have died. And I don't understand why we're still alive. And he goes, what time was that? And I told him. And he goes, I was up praying for you. Man, if that ain't God. And you can look at me like I'm crazy. I could care less. It is crazy. You're right, if I am a little crazy, you know what? I'd actually tend to agree with you. But you know, you can't make this stuff up. How do you meet somebody a world away fighting a war, and you meet a guy who's got all these ties to you? And then you survive these things that you shouldn't survive, and God was waking up your parents back home and telling them they had to pray for you at the exact time. Can't make that stuff up. Amen. I remember coming home. I remember coming home from Iraq, broken. I was messed up. And my wife and church putting me back together, even if they didn't realize it. I remember starting this building project. I remember my wife bringing Joel to see me at the project because it was one of the only times that we could see him. The time I got home, it was too late. I remember him wearing his little hard hat and tool belt that was held up by his suspenders. I remember that. That's some great memories. I was in a lift right over here building this wall. Some good memories. Some good memories. I remember meeting Bruce Nepper. I remember watching Pastor Lou put the fear of God in him with that steel crowbar. You may not remember it. Do you remember it? He remembers it. He could tell you the story. I could finish it for him because he had to go to the hospital. But, well, you had a bunch of staples in your head, didn't you? Now, Pastor Lou tells it differently. I speak the truth. Just remember, I was in the Bobcat, and I was picking up the corner of the slab. Pastor Lou had the pry bar, and he was pushing on it. And he says that I lifted up on the Bobcat. I didn't lift up on the Bobcat. He jarred the piece of concrete, and it, boof, it went up. Not my issue. They always blame the operators. You know, and that pry bar, man, that was a big pry bar to get hit with. I thought we killed Bruce. And Bruce went, and he got his stitches. Then he came back and got saved. I remember being so tired from all the work. We were tired, man. Working so many days in a row. It seemed like the only words any of us could put out was ice cap. It's like the crew would show up at 4 o'clock after work, and I don't know, whoever brought all the ice caps, you have a special reward in heaven. You really do. Amen. Kept us going. This is one of my fondest memories. It may not mean a lot to you guys, but this one is one of my fondest. I remember putting up the last truss of the building with all the guys of the church. I remember after we got it up, I remember thinking, I wish I had gone to war with these guys. Man, I remember they parked 2 cube vans on either side of that front building, that front entranceway. And Pastor Lou said that we couldn't not drywall, drive it. We couldn't put the drive it up with the lifts. We would have had to rent a special lift. So we had to build it on the ground and then pick it up in place, completed. I remember asking if he understood how much that weighed. He said, yeah, but we can do it. We'll use the high lift. Well, the high lift is that big front loader. It only goes up 15 feet. It had to go up, whatever, another 5 feet above it. So we took 2 cube bands and parked them underneath. We put plywood on top, and all the guys of the church got on either end and up in the side of that thing, and we picked that thing up. And then we stopped picking it up. And it got like to where it needed to go up like this much further, and we had nothing left. I mean, some of you remember Jim Mulpey. He's no slouch. Jim Mulpey is screaming, picking this thing up, and I will never forget, ever in my life, the words of wisdom that I heard Brother Gary say, Brother Gary Reed. He was screaming at Pastor Pete Godano. Don't worry, he wasn't a pastor then. All I heard was, "Pick it up, stupid! Pick it up!" I swear if Peter would have turned green and into the Hulk, it would have been that moment. And I kid you not, it just went, whoop. I don't know if it was everybody who got a whole shot of energy, but I was like, my hand stayed here and just went, whoop. That really is one of my fondest memories. Brother Tom's got pictures of it. Every so often you see him roll up when we do these memories, look backs. It's one of my fondest. I remember the staff meeting when Pastor Lou said he wouldn't be able to pastor anymore. I remember standing there at the hospital at his deathbed, wishing that things were different, wishing that he would wake up and get better, wishing I had spent more time with him. I remember the day he died, and I remember the funeral of a Titan. What do you remember? Psalm 77, 10 through 11 says this, "And I said, this is my infirmity, but I will remember the years of the right hand of the Most High. I will remember the works of the Lord. Surely I will remember thy wonders of old." You know, you got a lot of pain, you get a lot of suffering. There's a lot of things that I wish were different. Just this past month alone, I spent a lot of time on my knees. I have to admit, more than I've ever had before. You know, but through it all, I realize it's just the grace of God is something that you really can't understand. And it's amazing when it hits you that, like, how, these things should just wipe us, they should just wipe us out. You know, a lot of times when a man of God dies, what happens to the church? People leave, things split, problems happen. All these things, they should have happened to us, and they didn't because of the grace and mercy of God. And I sit and wonder, you know, why are we different? Why is it that we go through some of these issues and some of these problems and catastrophes in life, and yet we're still here, sitting in a pew? And we may not realize it or be even able to articulate it in words, communicate it, but I really think it's because of a message like this. It's because of precious memories. It's because we invested here. And this is your family. Amen. It is. Amen. Ramon, this is your family. Ben, this is your family. Little Herman, this is your family. Torres's, this is your family. This is our family. And we're going to go through some pain. We're going to go through some suffering. And there's going to be some good times. But there's going to be some bad times. And you know, I was just talking with Vinny, and I says to him, I asked him how things were going, because obviously they're going through some hard times. And he says, it's going okay when, you know, people are around. But you know, there's a time at night, and I never understood why it was always at night, but that's when the demons come out. That's when they come out to play. And you know, there's some demons that we face that you're almost on a first name basis with. It's like, hey Joe, hey Jess, you ready to terrorize me tonight, Joe? I'm ready, Jess. You ready? Yeah, let's go. There's some demons that we have to face in the night. And the only thing that's going to get us through it is things like this. We have to remember the Most High. We have to remember what He's done through us, to us, and for us in the past. And you know, there's been some great memories of sitting around the bonfire and throwing out a guitar and listening to the pastor sing Tiny Little Hands and just having some talks. And not all of them have to be about the word of the Lord. Some of them are just about life and having a good time and having fellowship and creating some great memories. And then there's the other ones of hitting pavement and feeling my bones break and wondering if the day I'm gonna die. And over being deployed, running through an orchard of some kind, knowing I'm running into a trap and getting ready, praying to God that night, Lord, just let Him shoot me in the head because I don't want to watch another person bleed out. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want that. Please, Lord, just take care of my wife. You know, there's gonna be some hard times. There's going to be losses of jobs. There's going to be losses of friends and loved ones. There's going to be some pain and some suffering. And we go through that and we don't know why. I still wish I understood why. But I can't help to think that, you know, I'm probably going to go through those things anyway. You people out here are going to go through your own paths and you're going to have some of your own trials. And you know, it's my belief that you'd go through them with or without God. A lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot of people, it seems that the world thinks, and sometimes it creeps into Christianity, where we think that if you know, we get saved and all of our problems are supposed to go away. No, I just think you hit the bonus round and you just get to go with it through with Him.
Right. Good. That's it. Good preaching.
What do you remember tonight? I remember God. I remember this church. I remember you. There is memories of such a great life here. But you're not going to have them unless you get in. Unless you make the decision that you're just here for the long term and here for the haul. Some of you may be sitting in this room tonight listening to the jokes, the funniness. Sure, maybe I can even pull a tear out of you for some of the hard times. But we can't relate. You may not know what it's like to be around the bonfire. Hey, you two, stop. You don't know what it's like to be around the bonfire with Pastor. You might not know what it's like to go drive-by tracking in the projects and get pulled over by the cops because they think you're dealing drugs. You might not know what it's like to be called by one of the other men who in the group of men to pray for something, the situation that's going down. You might just be on the fringe. And I will tell you this. That is a personal decision that you've made. I'm not one that is very good with words. I don't articulate a lot. But we're starting to slip into this world that everything is somebody else's fault. And it's just that they don't like me. That's why I'm not part of the in-group. There are no walls here. You want to be part of those memories? Then start making them. Amen. Decide that you're going to get involved. It's your choice. I tell the kids in junior church, I wish I could make it. I wish I could make all your decisions for you, because I've just made so many bad ones at your age that I can only pick the good ones for you. And I can love you and I care about you, but I can't do it. I can't make you be part of this. I can't make you decide to stay and make the memories. I can only try to influence you and beg you to do it, because I'm telling you right now, the great memories are okay. They're good to rely on. You have some fun. But you know, when you're starting to go through the trials and you're starting to go through the pain, it gets lonely when you're on the outside. Yeah. Right. And it's coming. We've gone through the worst start of a year I've ever seen. And that's of the situations I know of. We're not even talking about the ones that's between you and Pastor Lou. And I know there's a lot of people in here tonight that are hurting. And the reason I say that is because Pastor Lou said something to me about it. Besides all the stuff that you know of, this has been one of the worst times ever. The devil's just fighting us. Well, you know, normally when I see that happening, you know, we're talking about spiritual warfare, and I've never been to war college, and I'm not a big strategist, but I understand basic combat. And you know, whenever you see a big frontal assault, it's because the enemy's expecting something. And you wonder what God's getting you ready for.
Right. Yeah. Keep preaching, Jesse. Amen.
I know something's happening in this church because everything's going wrong. Amen. The trials that you're fighting, they're for a reason. I don't know what it is, but it's for a reason. And it'll manifest and it'll show itself. But you got to stick around. You can't let it get you. You got to stay. You got to stay. You guys are all in Psalms 105. 105. We're going to start in verse number 4. Seek the Lord, verse number 4, seek the Lord in His strength. Seek His face evermore. Remember His marvelous works that He hath done, His wonders and the judgments of His mouth. O ye seed of Abraham, His servant, ye children of Jacob, His chosen. He is the Lord our God. His judgments are in all the earth. He hath remembered His covenant forever. The word which He commanded to 1,000 generations. You know what I like most of all? I took you down just a little bit of a memory lane, and you know, to be honest, there was some stuff that I thought about adding to this, but I didn't want to. That's happened the last month. But I figured I'd stand up here and cry the whole time. You guys wouldn't understand what I'm talking about. It's better to leave those off until the next time God tells me to preach this message. But you know what He told me today? You know what made all the difference in the world to me? Well, it's not so much that I remember you, that I remember the church, that I remember these memories, that I remember God. It's that He remembers us. That's what made the difference to me tonight. There's a song, it's called Precious Memories, and we're going to sing that for the invitation, but there's a part in there that says, precious memories, how they linger, how they ever flood my soul. In the stillness of the midnight, precious memories, scenes unfold. Just remember that while you're trying in your midnight to remember God, that He's already remembered you. If there's anything that you can go out of here remembering tonight, it's that. You're going to go through it, and it's going to hurt. And we're not going to understand it. And when I mean we, you're part of a church body here. There's things that's happened this last month that I don't understand. I don't understand. I know there's families in here hurting, and I don't get it. But I hurt with you. I know the pastor does too. You know, I was told something, and to be honest, I don't know if I should say it over the pulpit. Usually, at that point, Pastor Lou would just say, probably not good to say it then. But he's not here, so. And actually, it's about him. And I don't know how true it is, but someone leaked some information about when my mom got into that head-on accident. How he was at a meeting, and he was supposed to be preaching. And he was so upset he couldn't even preach. And that shows you what kind of a pastor we have.
Right. Yeah.
Can you imagine that? Not too often, other than when I was in combat, could I ever say that when I bled, my brothers bled. And I don't even, it doesn't even have to be physically. I just mean emotionally, spiritually. And here at this church, we have something so unique. And I can say it with a smile on my face. That when you bleed, we bleed. When you hurt, we hurt. When you're having a hard time, so do we. And definitely so does our pastor. We are so blessed. We are so blessed. It's so undeserving. We are in New York. We're New Yorkers. We're supposed to be the meanest, toughest people out there. And I'm standing up here, runny nose, tears running down my cheeks, saying, I love you guys. And I'd do anything for you. And I hope each and every one of us tonight can just go out of there saying the same thing. We are a church body. We are a group of people that have come together to serve Christ together. We are one. And if we act like that, through our tragedies, through our woes, think of all the good memories God's going to give us on top of it. Closing statements are this. John, you can start coming up. What memories are you making? Because one day, you're going to wake up and you're going to realize you needed them. Don't wait too long. Start making them now. Teach your children to make them now. Half of what I read to you tonight are memories from our childhood. Growing up in church. Stay. Make some memories. Remember God through the hard times because He's remembering you. Brother John.